Today, we're going to break down a really powerful idea about what it means to belong and to have a purpose. It's a blueprint, really, taken from a sermon at St. Francis Parish, and it connects this huge cosmic vision to a single, simple action you can take in just 10 minutes. So let's jump in.
Okay, so here's the game plan. We're going to start with a core identity, then we'll dig into its mission, and after that, we'll figure out who's really supposed to be doing all the work. Then we'll look at a real-life example of a total transformation, and finally, we'll zero in on the one simple step that kicks the whole thing off.
First things first. Before we can even talk about what this community is meant to do, we've got to understand what it believes it is. And honestly, it all boils down to one central, powerful metaphor. So the core idea here is that the church isn't a building or just some institution. It's seen as a single living organism. This quote from St. Porphyrius, which was brought up in the sermon, just nails it. Christ is the head, and all the members of the church make up the body. They're actually seen as one and the same thing. This frames the relationship in a really fascinating way. I mean, it's not your typical hierarchy. It's all about total dependence and connection. The body literally can't live without the head, and it gets all its nourishment from it. This means every single member is connected, not just to each other, but directly to that source. All right, so if that's the identity, one body with one head, then what's this body's job, right? What is its whole purpose in the world? Well, that brings us to its mission. And according to the church's own teachings, this mission is absolutely massive. It goes way beyond just building a nice community. It's about healing disconnection on a global scale. The goal is to restore unity in two directions, vertically with God and horizontally with each other. As the sermon puts it, it's a job that's never, ever finished. And this quote shows you exactly where that mission comes from. These are basically the final instructions from Jesus in the Gospel of Matthew, what's often called the Great Commission. It's a direct command. Go out, teach, and bring people into this unified body. This is the why that fuels the whole operation. So this is the crucial point. Who is actually supposed to carry out this huge, world-changing mission? Who are the main agents of this work? Well, the official answer laid out in the church's teaching, it might not be what you think. The Catechism asks this exact question. And, when you hear the word ministers, your mind probably jumps to priests, bishops, clergy, right? But believe it or not, they aren't listed as the primary answer. The text is so direct, there's no ambiguity. The first and primary ministers of the church are the laypersons, the regular members. The sermon really hammers this point home, saying, that's you, that's you, that's you. You are the ministers of the church. The responsibility for this entire mission rests on the shoulders of the whole body. But there's a problem, a big one. This sermon points to a challenge that, let's be honest, many of us have seen, the 80-20 rule. In a ton of organizations, it's 20% of the people doing 80% of the work. And that creates this huge gap between the ideal, where everyone is a minister, and the reality on the ground. And that tension, that gap, leads directly to this really challenging personal question posed in the sermon. It shifts the whole focus from this big, collective idea to your own individual responsibility. It's a call for every single member to ask themselves, hey, how committed am I really to the shared mission? So how does someone actually step up and take that role seriously? To answer that, the sermon gives us a powerful case study, St. Francis of Assisi, a guy who went through one of the most radical personal transformations in history. I mean, the contrast is just staggering. Before his conversion, Francis was described as this self-absorbed, spoiled materialist who just loved a good time. Afterwards, he became a global symbol of humility, service, and peace. His life is basically proof that this kind of radical change isn't just a nice story. It's actually possible. But this didn't just happen overnight. It was a journey with these key turning points. It all started with a dream that really pushed him towards prayer. Then came this pivotal moment where he embraces a leper, a total outcast, and feels like he's embracing Christ himself. And finally, while he's praying, he hears a voice telling him to rebuild my church, which just sets him on his ultimate mission. So this brings us to the most crucial question of all. We have the identity, we have the mission, we have a model for change. But for an ordinary person, for you and me, how does it all begin? What's that very first step? The sermon is crystal clear on this. The entire transformation, both for St. Francis and for anyone who wants to step into this role, is built on one single foundational practice: prayer. It was his starting point, and it's presented as the essential starting point for all of us too. And the purpose of this prayer isn't just to make a list and ask for things. It's framed as a practice of building a relationship. It's about creating the time and the space to just stand before God, to worship, to learn how to love, and most importantly, to listen, to hear a voice that you are just not going to hear on television or on your phone. So what does this foundational first step actually look like in practice? The sermon proposes a starting point that is incredibly simple and totally accessible. We're not talking hours of meditation. We're talking about just 10 minutes. 10 minutes of prayer in the morning to start the day. And so, that's where we end with this challenge. It's a question that connects a grand, world-changing mission to a tiny personal decision. It asks us to really think about the power of one simple habit and suggests that maybe, just maybe, changing the world begins with 10 quiet minutes in the morning.